G'day Guardians, it's Matt here, and today I want to show you one of the easiest hunter builds to make that's going to let you spam skip grenades like crazy. When I say spam, I literally mean that you'll be throwing skip grenades before your previous one even seeks an enemy to kill. If you don't believe me, then I'm going to make you a little bit of a deal here. I want you to follow this build to a T. I want you to make sure that you're in an activity with plenty of enemies, and if for whatever reason you go at least 10 seconds without a grenade charge, I want you to send me a clip of that on Twitter, and I'm going to give you a follow. Because I'm so confident that that's not going to happen, because this build is too good and you'll have the fastest cooldown on your grenades. It's incredible. Before we dive into the build, I just want to thank you all for helping Roguey and I get to 1,300 subs. It means the absolute world to us, especially heading into Witch Queen where there's going to be plenty of fresh content. It's just really insane to know that we've got an audience already to post videos to. We're really thankful. One last thing, I think I sold all of my metadata to that Chinese app that's giving away the code for the new Chinese New Year emblem. So if you'd like a chance at winning that, all you have to do is make sure that you subscribe to the channel, like this video, and then comment what exotic armor or weapon that we should make a build around next. Alright, so for this build, we want to have Shinobu's Vow because it does three really important things. It makes the skip grenades better, which is great because without it, they're usually hot garbage. It gives us an extra skip grenade so that we can throw two at the same time if we feel like it. But the most important thing is that it refunds grenade energy back based on the damage it deals. One thing to note about the refunded energy is that in today's current sandbox, enemies and bosses are sometimes more or less resistant to damage that you deal. Some enemies have a funny crit multiplier, some do weird things when debuffs are applied, but some enemies will naturally be at 1100 light level if you're in something like a Vanguard Strike, or 1370 if you're in a Grandmaster. The thing to realize is that the grenade energy refunded can just look different depending on what activity you're doing. An example of this was when I was running some Altar of Sorrows, I got the Unstable Essence buff that deals 25% more damage to nightmares, and when I threw my skip grenade, I was getting almost a full refund on my grenade for the insane damage that it was doing to one of the nightmare enemies. Although if I went into something like a Master Vault of Glass and threw it at an Overload champion, I'd probably be seeing a lot less energy refunded. For the subclass, Shinobu's Vow isn't locked into any of the Arcstrata trees, but for this build I am using and recommending top tree. Before you yell at me in the comments, yes, middle tree and bottom tree both work perfectly with this, and yes, they both have perks around energy regeneration that work well too, but you'll see in a moment why I chose top tree. We're going to be using Gambler's Dodge because it has an infinite loop synergy with Combat Flow, where melee kills refresh our dodge roll, and as you know, Gambler's Dodge refreshes our melee. So in this build, we have guaranteed melee and dodge roll whenever we want it. That's handy to remember for when we jump into the mod section. The other perks within the top tree aren't overly important for the build, but Combination Blow is a fantastic one to remember, where getting a melee kill gives us some health regeneration if we ever need it in a quick pinch. For the mods, we're running Seeking Wells, so for all my people out there who hate picking up elemental wells, you're covered, there's no need to worry, they're just going to come to us. On my arms, I'm running Bountiful Wells, which is important because we have two ways to generate elemental wells in this build, and this mod is going to give us some extra wells based on the amount of copies I'm using for those generation mods. I also find Fastball to feel really nice, but obviously isn't necessary, and Impact Induction to help reduce that grenade cooldown with melee kills. This leads me to my legs, where I have Melee Wellmaker. Because I'm running just one copy of this, I will still receive 2 elemental wells thanks to Bountiful Wells, and with Gambler's Dodge and the Combat Flow perk, I'll always have a melee ability ready to use, ready to make 2 elemental wells when I need. The 2 innovation mods are just handy to have passively in the background, giving us grenade energy when I walk over orbs. On my helmet, I have 2 copies of Ashes to Assets. These aren't necessary, you can run ammo finders instead if you want, but since we're throwing a lot of grenades, it does mean you'll get a lot of super energy with these mods. I know Arc Staff isn't in the greatest spot right now, but it's still pretty fun to pop it on cooldown and just clear out some ads. I do have Elemental Ordnance here and on my cloak, which means a grenade kill will generate 3 elemental wells in total thanks to Bountiful Wells. I'm also running double bombers because we're doing a little bit of dodge rolling in this build, and giving us extra grenade energy for each one is just a no-brainer. Don't fret about particle deconstruction being missing. With how many grenades we're throwing, we ain't got time for fusion rifles. So with this compilation of mods, each grenade is going to make us 3 elemental wells, and we have 2 grenades, so there's 6 wells, and our melee will give us 2 elemental wells, and we essentially have unlimited uptime on that. So it makes this build pretty self-sufficient in terms of refunding grenade energy back through things like the Impact Induction mod, the Bomber mods, and all the elemental wells that'll just be coming to us. As for the weapons to run with this build, just make a mental note that if you do everything correctly here, you won't really need to rely on your weapons too much, since it should be just skip grenade city everywhere. But anything with Demolitionist synergizes really nicely, since kills with the weapon will give grenade energy, and then your skip grenade will reload the weapons for you. Anything with Adrenaline Junkie is also really nice, since this build will give you a constant 5 stacks of damage with that. Even better is chasing something like this Battle Rifle, which has both perks, making the most out of this build. There is the absolute classic Traveler's Chosen, in case you've just made a huge mess of your abilities and you want a quick refresh on everything just to start the string of actions again, but honestly this build is pretty foolproof. The last recommendation is something like Trinity Ghoul, since our skip grenades will proc the Lightning Rod perk for us. In terms of how this build does play out, we've got 2 grenade charges and we want to throw those to start the fight. If you've picked a good time to throw them and it's hit quite a few enemies, you should get an entire refund for a single grenade back, essentially meaning that you can throw 3 skip grenades in very quick succession. The energy that you get back from all 9 elemental wells is enough for another grenade charge, and when the energy starts to dwindle down, you just throw in a few melees in the mix, dodge roll to keep that up all the time, and then those wells from the melee will also help out with grenade energy, and then you've also got your weapon with Demolitionist, hopefully, to help fill out any gaps. But if you do this properly, you'll have a grenade up all the time. This isn't a build I would recommend for high level content, because even though we have some strong skip grenades that'll probably destroy any arc shielded enemies, it really is hard to justify this over something like Orpheus Rig or Omnioculus when it comes to harder content. But for easier content, this build will shred everything, and it's just really fun to play. There's very few casual builds for hunters that I find enjoyable to use, but for this one, you really do feel the effect of having better skip grenades. You know, if you have something like Stompies on, sure, you feel, your movement getting better, or something like Sixth Coyote, you can obviously feel having those double dodge rolls, but Shinobu's Vow does make you feel a little bit stronger when you are playing some of that more casual content, and for me, I really enjoy the fact that I can feel that. When it comes to which stats to spec into with this build, it's a little bit hard to pinpoint where you want to distribute everything. You don't need mobility or strength, because Gambler's Dodge and the Combat Flow perk keep those readily available. You don't need intellect, because the amount of grenade kills you get with Ashes to Assets on will feed your super energy really quickly. You don't really need recovery or resilience, since our combination blow perk gives us health on melee kill, and you don't really need discipline, because Shinobu's Vow refunds grenade energy back, plus we have a massive flow of elemental wells feeding us energy, and we also have combat mods feeding us grenade energy too. So, being the basic hunter that I am, I just spec'd into 100 mobility because it feels nice, and if we're ever in a pickle and mess up the build combo at all, we can regain control knowing that the dodge roll is only back in 11 seconds. I also went with 100 discipline, because at the end of the day, this is a grenade build, and even though we have a ton of sources giving us grenade energy, we may as well have the most optimal cooldown possible. But that's everything from me, guys. I hope I see plenty of hunters out there spamming skip grenades alongside me. I really hope you guys did enjoy this hunter build, and remember, if you did want a chance at getting that Chinese New Year emblem, making sure that you're subscribed, like the video, and comment which exotic armor or weapon Roguey and I should do a build with next. We're happy to feature that comment in the next video as well. And as always, take it easy, Guardians.